Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review, or a random Radiance review. Today's film comes from 1973. It's Radiance Spy number 105, and it's Themroc, starring Michelle Piccoli, directed by Cloud Ferraldo. Cloud Ferraldo is not a filmmaker familiar with. Allegedly he was somewhat of an enfant terrible, la cinéma de français. No doubt Ben will let us know a little bit more detail in the comments. This is fairly wild. Obviously you get a nice little booklet and alternate artwork, which is the original poster, which is rather strange. Ferraldo's first film was Boff, B-O-F. A while ago, one of my favourite film watches of the year was Incubus with William Shatner, and what made that unique, apart from the gorgeous cinematography, was the fact it was in Esperanto. This film is French, but it's not really in the French language. It is in grunts, moans, shouts, howls, and when people do actually speak dialogue, it's fairly, it's pretty much in gibberish. So this is a film that you can watch without the volume, but if you have the volume on, it's a fairly abrasive, in your face, somewhat anarchic film. Controversial when it came out. It was banned in several places. It's a challenging film. It's certainly not straightforward. It's not one to pop in and switch your brain off, but it is a fascinating film. I wouldn't say I necessarily enjoyed it, but I don't think enjoyment is the goal of Ferraldo. Piccoli made about 350 films or something ridiculous in his career. He's really the only star, if you will, in the film, and he plays the title character Themroc. At the start of the film, it's almost a little bit futuristic, even though it's not really. He does the day-to-day grind, and he works for a company. There's two teams in the company who have different coloured jumpsuits. And there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of ridiculousness. For example, the teams are painting a gate, and one of the teams is painting one side and the other is painting the other side. It has a feel of one of those more anarchic Richard Lester films. Bed Sitting Room, How I Won the War. It kind of has that energy about the film, but in the face of this mundane rat race, Piccoli decides that he's had enough. Themroc decides he's had enough. He goes back home and he proceeds to knock a wall down out into the courtyard in the kind of house and estate or scheme that he lives in, and he starts throwing out all his possessions, and he makes a big hole in the wall, and he makes his window even bigger by knocking a big hole in the wall, and it inspires other people, including the woman across the courtyard from him. She does it as well, and it inspires this kind of atmosphere and this social movement of turning your back on society, turning your back on materialism and consumerism, and just essentially regressing back to the cave men and women mentality. And the police turn up, the authorities turn up, obviously spouting lots of gibberish, not really understanding what's going on, and the film kind of progresses from there. This was made in 1973. You know, France, like most countries in the late 60s and the 70s, went through socio-political upheaval, strikes, power cuts, riots, student protests, you know, and the governments, you know, across the world basically fighting back, killing strikers and students. And so it kind of comes out of that kind of feel. So you could say, well, it's of its time, but there's also, it's still kind of relevant today when you think about the world we're living in now. Obviously in Italy we make a big deal of the years of lead, and obviously being in Britain in the 70s and the strikes and power cuts and such. So it's this kind of, it's both retro and feels a little futuristic, but it's about being really retro, and again going back to the caveman aesthetic. Piccoli, who's usually quite, he's fairly reserved in certainly the films that I've seen him in, whereas this, he literally goes wild. In Feral, there's lots of nudity in the film, as you know, he does horizontal jogging with, you know, the woman across the hall, the young girl that he shares a flat with her mother. And again, it's just this feeling of, I've had enough. You could almost watch it in a double bill with Network. It's almost the French caveman version of Network, but obviously without all that wonderful script, including the amazing Ned Beatty speech that somehow gets overlooked in Network, but it's actually far better than the Peter Finch monologues as the Ned Beatty monologue in Network. Whereas this is deliberately back to expressing yourself through grunts and howls and shouts and screams, and language has been reduced to gibberish. But the message of the film's fairly clear. The relationship between the characters are fairly clear without needing, you know, reams and reams of dialogue. Because again, cinema at its heart is a juxtaposition of images, which are manipulated through the cut to tell a story. So I guess if you're looking at perfect cinema, perhaps perfect cinema should actually be silent, or just with grunts, howls, screams, belches, and whatever other noises you can make without actually speaking. So it's certainly a challenging film. There's a wonderful image as the police try and make some sense of it. There's a nice essay as well, because I think everybody who works a kind of mundane job has dreams of pretty much just saying no and running away and living in a cave, but Michel Piccoli actually takes it to the literal sense. So it's a 4K restoration. Again, it's kind of low budget shot. It has that gritty documentarian feel to it and look to it, so it's never going to look, you know, pristine, but it looks as good as it's going to get. And there's a wonderful interview with critic David Thompson, who goes into the film a lot better than I have, obviously. There's an archival interview with Piccoli and Feraldo. There's an interview with critic Manuela Lazic on Piccoli. There's a gallery trailer. There's an Easter egg, apparently. And of course, the nice little booklet. So is it a film that I would recommend you rush out and buy full price? Perhaps not, but it's certainly well worth a look. It's a film that I'm definitely going to go back to. Again, the first time you watch it, it's a bit of an assault on your ears. I'm not going to lie. But again, good cinema, great cinema should kind of jolt you out of your turpitude. And this film does that, gives you a good shake for about 108 minutes and then puts you back down to reassess your life. So that's Themroc, which is, as I say, it's a fascinating film, and again another one from Radiance, just to broaden your horizons a little bit. So thanks very much for watching this Radiance random review. Please let me know if you've seen Themroc and what you think of it, and hopefully you'll join me again for more random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films saying farewell.